Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Redleg Roundtable. Today's guest is a great one, Reds TV analyst, co-host of the Dead Red Cincinnati podcast, and a pitcher on the last great Cincinnati Reds team, Sam LeCure. Sam, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. How are you?
Oh, great. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're very busy, and certainly now that the season's over, you maybe have a little more time.
A little less busy now, dude.
little bit. Well, hey, I was telling you before we came on, I like to tell the story of guys, especially the players. We'd like to do that now. You're born May 4th, 1984 in Jefferson City, Missouri. How do you pronounce your high school? Is it Helias? Helias High School. Is that closer to St. Louis?
No. So, I mean, it's pretty much smack dab. Jefferson City's right in the middle of the state, 2 hours or so from St. Louis, 2 hours or so from Kansas City, 2 hours or so from Springfield. So apparently the people that founded Jefferson City did not want anybody to get to them with any ease, because it's a real pain in the ass to fly in and out of there. So you got to drive a couple hours. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's where it began.
All right. Well, what was life growing up there like for you, especially as far as baseball goes?
It was rural, I mean, it started off in like river leagues is I think what we called it. I played there till probably I was 10 or 11. And then the field right next to that was that Babe Ruth league. I don't know if that's Babe Ruth up here or Pony League, whatever people call it, different spots. So it was Babe Ruth for a couple of years. And then there was an American Legion team, all local guys. So it was like my high school. And then the public high school was Jeff City High School. And so just the collection of those guys. So we played against each other in high school, but with each other kind of during the summertime. So we were pretty good, man. Like we'd travel around, within the state. Maybe we'd sneak over the border into some Kansas or Illinois. But for the most time, just kind of around, St. Louis. There's a couple towns around there that we'd play. And then that kind of progressed to a more regional team that was more select, guys from the bigger cities, guys from St. Louis, and we'd travel around, and that's when it became, college showcase type of stuff. It was a select group, and we were traveling to, different colleges. We'd go to, Memphis. We'd go to, I think we went down to Arizona, University of Arkansas, where it was kind of all these college coaches who were recruiting. They could come and kind of one-stop shop, I think was kind of the idea of it. So I was on that for a couple of years, and that's kind of where, I got onto the team because I was pretty good, but I made my bones there. Like then I became, this guy's pretty good. We would have never heard of him if he was on this team, because the town I grew up in was 256 people. So I was outside of Jefferson City. I mean, it was a no horse town. Well, actually quite a few horses, but no stoplight town type.
Yeah. Well, you were seen.
Go ahead.
You were seen enough to be drafted 45th round by the Phillies in 2002, but you committed and you went on to the University of Texas in Austin. So obviously the showcases worked. They saw you. That's a huge program. Tell me about being recruited by them, and kind of, did you know how big a deal it was at the time?
No, I had really no intention of going to college. I mean, if they would have drafted me any higher, I mean, I think I would have just gone, which would have been horrible for me. I don't think I would have made it to the big leagues. I firmly believed at the time that I would have, but I needed to go to college, and I needed to grow up a little bit. I didn't do a great job, but I did some. But it was pretty cool. I mean, I kind of could have handpicked pretty much where I went. There were better schools than Texas. Texas, the year I signed there, was 36 and 26. I kind of wanted to go to a Tennessee. A buddy was going there. Ole Miss, another buddy was going there. But something about stepping onto that campus at, in 2000 and whatever it was, maybe, is when I went down there for my recruiting trip. It just felt different. And I just got back from there. I don't have a voice left, because they have something called Austin City Limits down there. It's a music festival, and I think I can sing, and I tried hard. I don't think I did a very good job because I blew out a vocal cord or something, but screw it. So I just got back from there. I still have great friends down there. Getting to play for Augie Garrido. I've been thinking about him a lot today. I told you this morning I woke up and was kind of thinking about some of these different things. He was one of the things that got me out of bed this morning, as far as the path of my life and some of the wisdom that he imparted on me. But it was amazing being down there. We were an excellent team. We did some cool things, and I think it definitely prepared me to get into the professional ranks.
And you played with future Reds teammate Drew Stubbs there at Texas as well.
Yeah. Stubby was in center field for my major league debut. That was pretty cool.
That is neat. Now, listen, I try to do my research, and I'm seeing stats for you through 2004.
Yep.
You weren't drafted to 05. What did you have an injury? What happened in 05?
I got kicked out of school for academic ineligibility. So that is another thing that kind of keeps me up at night. I've done, I've failed plenty in my life, and that's kind of what this whole endeavor about that I've talked to you. I haven't got it off the ground yet, but I'm trying to start a new podcast, basically about things like this, about kind of relatability to, I'm going to say the common man, and I don't mean it in any way because I'm a common man, but just about failures and how people can kind of relate to the people that they watch on TV and understand that they went through some things too. And if they're willing to be vulnerable to it and share that information, then somebody else maybe can avoid that situation. Or if they do go through it, I can help give them some of the tools through my failings to help them, navigate that. Because it was, like I said, I failed plenty. That is the biggest regret of my life because it was strictly effort. I'm not an idiot. I just didn't go to class.
Sure.
So that was, that's a big shame, but that's why you see no stats for 2005.
Okay. Well, hey, I was actually thinking about this the other day. My son's 13. It's U15, he turns 14 later this month, U15 soccer. And we see these games and we see kids on all these other teams and even maybe his own team too sometimes, where I just feel like even at 13, but even up in your early to mid 20s, guys think they have it figured out, right? They think they know what's going on.
Yes,
nobody can tell them what's up. And I see kids on the field overreact to a referee call, to these things, maybe to another kid insulting him or something like that. And It's like, man, if you had the benefit of hindsight, like I'm in my mid 40s, it's like, oh my goodness, if I could go back, and tell you, and if you could just understand what I'm telling you. I told my son on the way home, I don't even know if he listened. Just listen, because this is not the end of the world, and you can't overreact to certain things, and you've got to take other things seriously. I guess I'm right there with you as far as thinking of these things.
Yeah, no, I think about it a lot, and I kind of said that people have been asking me to do my own podcast for years, and I always thought that it would be something I'd be interested in once I found something that I was kind of passionate about. And as I go on in life, yes, I love baseball, of course, and when I do this thing, it's going to have baseball written all over it, but it's not going to be about baseball. It's going to be about the translation of, my time in baseball and how I've learned so much about life and how it taught me about baseball. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who love baseball and who struggle because it's such a game of failure, that it can help out with. So yeah, I do spend a lot of time thinking about this. So, I love to help people. I think is kind of why I started having this conversation a couple of weeks ago with a guy, and it started out as, oh, how do you want to make your brand national, and how do you want to make some money and all this stuff? And I was like, like I could have started doing that crap a few years ago. Like that's not it, and that's, as the conversation stretches to about an hour, I'm like, dude, I just think I'd like to help people, and I really don't care. If I can make enough money doing my day gig, then I just enjoy doing this. And he was kind of blown away by it. I don't think maybe that's common among some of former athletes that he deals with. They want to do it because they want to stay relevant, and, you kind of have to be relevant to get a following on whatever you're doing. But this is something that I found that now I'm definitely passionate to get it going. As I told you, I've been up pretty early today. So we'll get the ball rolling a little bit and hopefully do some good out there.
Well, and we're going across platforms here within the Reds podcast universe, but I know even like Jim Day, his chat with Danny Graves or Fernando Cruz, you guys have a platform, and certainly you can affect change in some way or another. So that's really cool. I look forward to seeing what you do. Hey, you to turn a little bit more lax, a little sillier now. Your Wikipedia page says you're the youngest of 8 children. I don't know if that's true. You can tell me in a moment.
That's true.
But also it says you like milk with your Pop-Tarts. I'm not sure where that would come from. It's
Dude, I have no idea. I didn't know. That's news to me. Yes, By the way, that's true. That's absolutely accurate, but I don't know who the hell I've never messed with that Wikipedia page. I try not to look at myself on the internet. A lot of times I'm scared of what I'll find. Like I said, there's been some failings, so I don't know which one of those are popping up on there or not. The internet's a funny place, so I try to stay away from it. But yes, I do like milk with my Pop-Tarts. And I almost got Pop-Tarts in the grocery store the other day. I was kind of walking by the breakfast aisle, and I was like, "Yeah, I hadn't had a Pop-Tart in a minute." And then I remembered I didn't have a toaster.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Well, my kids won't eat it out of the toaster. They just eat them out of the package. I'm like,
oh,
that's
really?
gross, guys. You need to heat that up.
You're going to get on me about, and you're going to get on me about milk?
Well, I just thought that was a weird thing to be on there.
Oh, yeah, no, that's true.
What was it like growing up, the youngest of 8 kids? That's a large family.
It was entertaining. A lot of times it was difficult at a lot of times. I wore hand-me-downs. I think I got rid of my last hand-me-down in 2018. I mean that. That's just the way it was. I didn't care. I didn't know any better. You know, I'd been in the big leagues for 5-6 years at that point. Like, I could have bought a shirt.
Yeah.
But that's just the way that it was. It was pretty remarkable to see, you know, how my mom and dad were able to navigate that. And, you know, you talk about, I mean, it's 8 different personalities, you know, there's, you know, I know which is crazy just because I know mom and dad raised us the same way.
Right.
I know that as they went along, obviously they maybe got a little bit either stricter or lackadaisical about what, you know, how it was going to go. Cause well, shit, I've already seen this from 7 other kids. Sam, you know, so the baby gets all the leeway, but I mean, it's really interesting. I learned a lot from them, from both failures and successes that they had in their life. Because my oldest brother's 20 years old. So there's 5 that are in their 50s or more, and then 3 more that are kind of 45 and below. You know, and I'm the youngest at 40. So to kind of watch all them, you know, I was pretty much an uncle. You know, I was an uncle at age 5. So what, you know, I didn't realize what I was witnessing at the time, I don't guess, but I was absorbing it. How are they raising their kids? You know, I was watching all that stuff. And as life went on, I realized I retained a good bit of it for whatever reason. So why'd they act like this in that situation? Why are they being like this? So I think I got, you know, my good qualities kind of from watching them fail a little bit and saying, well, I would have done it a different way. Now, have I done that to a T? Absolutely not. Like I said, I failed plenty. And that's just part of the story. But it was great when I was out there at the beginning of the month. We had a great time. We always do. It's kind of like a little mini Vegas out there. You know, it's like 3 days and I got to get out of there tops. So we have a good time. My mom's got a great little ranch. I say ranch. That's what we call it. About 15 acres outside of town. Neighbors a half mile away. We got to put a pool in out there. We got a creek that runs through it. We can, you know, it's big enough to probably play a baseball game in the front yard. You know, we'll shoot skeet in the back, hit golf balls, play catch, you know, have a bonfire, the whole Midwest experience. So, and there's always something on the grill. But it was great. So we make it a point to get together. Obviously, I don't get back there as much anymore, but I try to make it a point to get out there a handful of times a year.
So you ended up not playing in 05. You were drafted in the 4th round by the Reds, though, in that draft. Tell me a little bit about what you did to kind of stay ready, and then also your trip through the minors. If you would just talk a little bit about your experience in the minor leagues.
What I did to stay ready is I played catch in the parking lot outside of the apartment complex that I believe I was semi-squatting in. It was with an active teammate. But I played catch out the back there with whoever I could find that either wasn't on an active roster kind of thing. And I worked for a beer delivery company down there during the time. I went to the games, you know, watched the boys, tried to support and whatnot, while keeping some distance. You know, it's probably not a great, you know, I don't think I was much to be associated with at the time, but those guys still, we get together to this day. And so that's kind of what it was. And I threw a couple kind of bullpen sessions down there for some scouts. I ended up going and playing in I think it was the Northern League It was up in Minnesota, Brainerd, Minnesota. Beautiful area up there. A couple guys that I knew were coaching a team. It was a collegiate summer league. And I got 2 starts in up there that I was throwing, kind of whipping it in there pretty good, I guess. Good enough to get drafted in the 4th round. I was out on the golf course on the day of. I don't even know. I knew it was a draft day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an idiot. Like I said, I'm kind of aloof to this stuff. It's like, hey, whatever's happening, it's happened, man. Somebody will call me if they need me. So my agent calls me out there. Well, I'm sure I was double bogeying something. And, he's like, hey, you're going here. You're done there. And so I packed up and rolled down to Missouri, kind of got what I needed and waited for kind of that negotiation period, whatever, which I don't think took too long, as best I can remember. And then I was off to Billings, Montana, and had an awesome time out there. Beautiful area. Instructional league that year, which is, that's when I kind of got to know a lot of the staff, the Freddie Benavidez, Mac Jenkins, guys that I've known for now a long, long time, and get into, Homer Bailey, John Purdom, different guys that I was going to be with for the next, several years as it turned out. And then we were kind of off and running, man. And then I'm trying to figure out like how this whole thing works. Like, where do I go? What do I do in the off season? Where am I at? So I kept going back to Austin to work out with the guys there who had been drafted as well. And so I'd lived there for a couple months, spring training for a couple months, then the season for a few months. So I had 3 address. I mean, I'd love to see the list of addresses I have from my time in the minor leagues and even some of the part of the big leagues. But no, so, we're in Sarasota still. The Reds were in Sarasota, and I skipped Dayton, which I'm happy about, but it would have been cool to play a game or 2 there. It sounds like it's a pretty awesome stadium. And then it was like kind of a year in high A Sarasota, which was good. I think I led the league in losses and was 5th in ERA. So that's just kind of the nature of it. Next year, Double A, got hurt a little bit. I think I definitely repeated Double A. So I did Double A twice. The first year I got hurt in Double A, I think I went to the Dominican. I played in the Dominican Winter League a couple years, which was an amazing experience. Then got to AAA in 2009, I guess. Yeah, 09, and kind of got humbled a little bit there. I think if you look at it, my ERA would have been respectable, but it was not what I thought it needed to be. So repeated there. I went to the Arizona Fall League somewhere in there. It's hard to, it's a lot. You're moving around a lot and you're going to different places. But, then repeated AAA in 2010 and found my way up to Great American Ballpark.
You did. On May 28th, 2010, you started that day. You went 6 innings. Gave up 6 hits, only gave up 2 earned runs. You struck out 5, and I believe you got the win that day. That had to be pretty neat. And also, you're coming in at the time when the franchise was kind of ascending, post Scott Rowland trade, late 09, and then into 2010. This is when, dreams were starting to be realized for a lot of fans, but also you players as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was really – I'm really thankful to have been a part of that. Still a lot of relationships with those guys that I keep or try to keep. It's tough, man. You're with each other 8 months of the year, and then you never know who gets traded, and then they find another family of friends, and then the career's over, and somebody's here and there and everywhere, and it's you do your best to keep up with them. But I've been fortunate to have lived in a lot of places, and I keep groups of friends in a lot of places. But those guys, definitely the memories that we had from those early 2010s are special, and, something I'll cherish and lament forever. I know you're eventually going to get to 2012. I thought we were the best team.
Yeah.
I thought that's why I always played was to win the world. At first it was to get to the big leagues, and then after that it was strictly to win the World Series.
Sure.
That's all I thought about every offseason when I was training. That was always the thought. Was I need to be ready for October 31st.
Yeah, I mean, you started 10 games your first 2 seasons, but you eventually moved full-time to the bullpen. I guess, was that a tough transition? I guess the easy answer is you want to be in the big leagues. So you'd rather do it as a reliever, or how'd that work for you?
I would have liked to have seen what I could have done with a full season of starts.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have been as good as I was out of the bullpen. I'm not saying I was some, God's gift out of the bullpen, but I wouldn't have been that good. I didn't have enough stuff to get through a lineup, and I did a couple. I mean, I went six or more a handful of times in those starts that I had while I was learning the ropes at the big league level. But I would have liked to have seen. Was it a tough transition? After I leaned on those guys down there a lot, the Nick Massett's, we end up getting like a Sean Marshall, John Broxton, Logan Andrusic, guys that I could kind of lean on a little bit and watch. I wasted a lot of throws when I was starting to get ready for a game. And once I got in the bullpen, like, you cannot do this every day, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't going to be able to pitch tomorrow. And I pared that down real quick. And then I pitched, about as much as anybody, certainly on their team around baseball. I mean, I was getting in 60 some odd games, for the most part, and feeling like I was able to contribute. So I learned pretty quickly on the fly. I really took to it because the 4 days in between starts were kind of miserable for me because I knew I wasn't going to get to play, and I didn't like that. I loved starting. I loved the start day. I didn't like all the crap in the middle of it. I didn't. So I liked being able to throw, and then, hey, man, I got a chance to be in there today. So I'm sitting there watching the game with intent.
Sure.
Not just rooting them on. I'm like, man, I want to pay attention here. What's the strike zone? What's the feel of the game? Where can if I get an opportunity here, can I shift momentum in our direction by going out there and just kind of bulldogging somebody with an 82-mile-an-hour fastball, which was tough to do, but I gave it my best, man. So, no, I think that the move to the bullpen was the right move. I still will always wish I had an opportunity to go back into the starting rotation after I had a couple years in the bullpen. So I think I learned a lot about who I was and the mentality that I needed to have out there on the mound while I was in the bullpen. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. Well,
you spent your entire big league career with the Reds. We'll get through the end of it a little bit later, but you had a career 3.51 ERA. That's good. 300 strikeouts to only 124 walks. Good ratio there. You talk about that 2012 team, and let's go ahead and talk about it. It just an incredible year, and certainly your ability to come in when needed obviously gets down to that NLDS game 1 out in San Francisco. Johnny Cueto records 1 out via strikeout, but he'd apparently hurt himself before the game or during warmups. You came right in. Matt Latos wasn't get ready fast enough. You come into the game, you go 1.2 innings, an inning and 2/3, and you're credited with the win in a game that certainly we as Reds fans will remember fondly because you just came off the mat and just took care of it.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. I kind of wish that we'd have had that moment in Cincinnati for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like the fans in Cincinnati remember that game, so they do remember me fondly. I feel like if I was able to have a game like that, and this is a little selfish, I'm going to be honest. This is going to be selfish. Then I felt like I would have been beloved,
Sure.
Because I was watching something the other day. It was just on one of these playoff games here recently, and I was like, oh, it was Sean Manaea walking off the mound for the Mets, and I think it was game 3 against I don't even know who, but he had an awesome game and came off the mound and he's doing this. And I was like, man, in front of the home crowd, that would have been so cool, for me to have, even a goodbye from Cincinnati to be able to, show my love to the fans. I'm still here and I get to see them around the set, but to be on the field in uniform and let them know how much they meant to me while I was here would have been really neat. Sometimes I wish I could throw out a first pitch at a packed stadium so I could give that to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then probably nobody'd show up. So anyway, back to San Francisco.
but one thing about that, it was an idiotic move by baseball to put the team that's going to have more home games. You shouldn't have to start on the road.
I understand that.
To me was dumb.
That was boneheaded, but we screwed it up anyway.
Yeah, you won both. You won both road games. You had you have nothing to argue with. You needed to win one of the 3 at home. We all understand that. But I will tell you, a clean 0.00 ERA over 4 innings across 3 games. You also pitched in a 2013 wildcard game, didn't give a run there. Your postseason ERA is clean.
It's clean. I'm happy about that for sure. I wish I'd have had 0.1 more out
Yeah.
And that would have been game 5 of that same series. But out in San Francisco, yeah, I was kind of, hey, I figured they'd have gone to Alfredo Simon right then. So I was surprised. I have this little pregame routine. I was in the middle of it, and they're like, you, and I'm like, huh, all right, well, I got to warm up on the game mound of my first playoff game ever, 8 pitches in after the guy who just won 20 games and was going to carry us to the World Series just went down. A lot of shit goes through your head right then.
Well, you've also
like, well, where's my glove? So,
but they're going to tell you, you got as many pitches you need. You're coming in for an injury, but by the way, you're coming into a playoff game, a packed house, and a just amazing stadium. I've been there myself once, but that idea of thanks for giving me all the pitches I need.
No, I was ready. I think I was ready. I think I probably could have just not thrown and been ready. All the adrenaline that was going.
Yeah, I bet.
I felt like I handled it well. I thought that was a hallmark of my career, being able to handle moments. I thought I was able to do that well because I never treated any moment different than any other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people would ever believe that or understand that. But you see guys that are good in the postseason. It's for that reason. They've been thinking about that and treating every at bat like that and treating every pitch like that all year long. So by the time they get there, it's really nothing different to them. And I think that I had that ability, but no, it was an amazing experience, and forever grateful for it. It will always hurt. I mean, it just will, because it's while I'm appreciated for that moment, it's definitely one that I wish wouldn't have happened, because we'd had a better chance to win the World Series.
That's true. What about so I guess my memory is that he tweaked something in the bullpen leading into the game. Did you guys know that? Did you know he was going out there already wounded a little bit?
Nope. I don't remember that. I think there was too much that happened after the fact, because if they would have told us that, I think I probably would have been. They'd have been like, hey, be moving around a little bit. He's not feeling good. But I also don't think, because there's no bullpen out there. I mean, there's no place to sit. I don't think they necessarily wanted to alert the other team in the event that Johnny was able to get through it.
Sure.
Something like that. Not that there was anything that they could do about it. Bunting on a guy with a busted oblique really doesn't do anything. So no, I don't remember being aware of it, but that was quite an ordeal.
It was. I want to go through that season, because you're talking about playing half your games in Great American Ballpark, and there'll be years where the Reds haven't had good pitching and people make excuses for the small, park and all that. But this is a season where your top 8 relievers, the highest ERA was 3.46, and Chapman had a 1.51. Everybody else was between that. Yeah. And we're talking guys pitching, like you said, 60-plus games, several of you. The starting rotation made every start except for the one. You've got guys with 33.
Todd Redmond.
Yeah, Todd Redmond. That's right. The starting rotation, Mike Leake had a 4.58, but everybody else was under 4. Tell me about that starting staff and bullpen together, and just the pitching staff that was put together for that season specifically.
I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself, man. I mean, you just don't see that anymore, that they would have made every single start had it not been for a doubleheader. Mm-hmm. They threw I'm sure they threw 1,000 innings in combination. I mean, close to it. The people don't understand the amount of stress that takes off the bullpen. The bullpen was good because the starting rotation was good. I mean, there were obviously the guys out of the bullpen had some skills. Obviously, Chappie and Brox and Marsh, I think, was there at the time.
Yeah.
Logan Hoover maybe was in there.
Hoover had 28 appearances. Yep. And Broxton came on with 25. I guess, was he traded that year?
Trade. Yeah, he was a trade, but he was nasty. No, I mean, the bullpen is a product of the starting rotation. I mean, we were always able to be fresh because we were never overworked, because those guys went out there and made every start and pitched 5 innings was a bad day back then. Now guys get high fives for it. But they were going out, 6, 7, 8 innings, with regularity. And when you only got to cover 1 or 2 or 3 tops a night, you're going to stay fresh. So we all had some games, but not, huge innings amounts.
Right.
Nobody was nobody had 60 games and 80 innings. They had 60 innings or 60 games and 60 innings, or maybe even less than that, somewhere around whatever it was. So, I mean, that was just the credit goes to the starting rotation and Brian Price, for being able to do that. And, the offense for giving us some lead so those guys could continue to go out there and eat some innings. And then when we were called upon, we were just fresh. Everybody felt good all the time. I don't know if there was a lot of guys on the bullpen that went on the DL that year. I wouldn't imagine. So it was pretty much that staff from wire to wire, and that's rare. So I got to throw some credit to Matt Krause, who was our strength coach at the time. For keeping guys on the field. That's not an easy thing to do. Tell me a team in the last 5 years who's even come close to that. Not even close.
No, 17 pitchers total pitched for the team that year. I mean, and three of them.
One of them was because of doubleheader.
Redmond, Villarreal only had one appearance each.
Knock that down to 16, and it's a 12 or 13 man staff. It's like that's unbelievable.
Cingrani was only in 3 games. Redmond and Villarreal won each, and then Bill Bray had come back. He was at 14 games, but beyond that, you guys, again, you made the trade for Broxton. He made 25 appearances.
Yep.
Just amazing. Were there guys, especially? Let's look at it from 2 angles. When you were just coming in, were there guys that took you under their wing or helped you out in any way? And then B, now that you're in 2012, were there just guys that you really relied on to kind of help keep you both all afloat?
I think that, the way that the system was run back then is guys weren't getting developed at the major league level. I was called up because I threw strikes. I could throw a breaking ball for a strike. I could feel my position. I could hold the running game. Those were like prerequisites to get to the big leagues. It wasn't just because you could throw 100 and had no idea where it was going.
Sure.
So I needed somebody to help me navigate the big league life. How much do you tip the clubhouse guy? Where do you go here? When are you here? When are you, all the stuff that I was talking about, when I was talking about spring training. Where do I go? Where do I live? When do I be there? Which locker room do I go to? All this crap. So that was a lot of, Bronson, because I came up in the starting rotation. So Bronson, Aaron Harang early, and then it moved kind of when I got to the bullpen to some Nick Massett was huge for me. He was probably the guy that I'd say most took me under his wing, but I'd played with Andrusic for a good bit coming up through the minor league. So I knew him and could ask him some questions. And then by 2012, you better, it was time. You need to be a professional. You need to handle your business. Of course, there was always going to be questions that were going to be asked about this, that, or the other thing. But, by that point, I felt pretty locked in to just be able to go out there and get my work in, perform, be a teammate, knew where I was, had been to all the stadiums kind of that we were going to at that time. Maybe interleague was just getting cooking. But as far as around the National League, I had a pretty decent idea. I knew a couple restaurants in some different towns. It was pretty well set up. So by that time, I think that had a lot to do with the success that we had. And the couple guys on the offensive side of it, I think Joey might have went down for a decent bit that year. He was having a monster year, I think, in 12. I think Scotty Rowe might have went down, but Todd Frazier came in and did like an awesome, was able to play first and third. Ryan Ludwig, I think, had a monster year that year. He was a big part of the team, in my opinion, and kind of vocal. Him and Frazier, keep it loose, talking too loud, talking too much, but I loved it. They always kept it loose in there, but everybody was kind of understood what we had in the clubhouse. And, it wasn't that we were playing not to screw it up, but we kind of reveled in it. And that's why, and I think more than anything, that's why that year was so disappointing. I think we all recognized it. And I think if you asked every team in baseball who the best team in baseball was that year, they'd say us. That doesn't take any sting out of it. Maybe a teeny bit, because I didn't need them to tell me that. I already knew.
Yeah.
So that's a stinger, but it was a great group. And, you take away, again, talking about failure, that's a failure that I learned from. And, that's just the game of baseball is part of it.
And my favorite stat with Votto is he was on pace to hit over 70 doubles. He played 111 games and still led the league with 44 doubles. He only played 111 games. And when he came back, he really didn't have much power left. He still needed to strengthen that. I think it was his quad at the time.
Yep.
But yeah, that was quite a team, 97 wins. And my story with that is I didn't buy the hat, the playoffs hat that they put out every year. I didn't buy it because I didn't want to, I don't know. At first, I didn't want to have it if you weren't going to go all the way.
Yeah, you're definitely a Reds fan.
Because I look back at it, I'm like, eh. But then but no, it's like a month or two later, I was like, this was one of the best teams of my life to follow. I want to have something to remember it by. Yeah. And so I did. I went out and bought it.
Oh, you'll never forget that team for sure.
No, I mean,
whether you got a hat or not.
Yeah, exactly. So just a great season, great team, and certainly we all wish it would have gone different, but awesome stuff. Now, you pitched 2013, you did well. You stayed with the Reds through 15. You did sign with the Diamondbacks and then went through spring training with them, I believe, and then you're with the Dodgers AAA, 31 games in 16. What was that kind of like? And then what was a crossroads for you as a career?
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that last year. I enjoyed getting to go to a different couple clubhouses. I mean, I love the guys in Cincinnati, don't get me wrong, but just to be able to kind of see the other side of the fence, how things were done in a different place, make some relationships with some guys in Arizona that are really cool. Keeping some touch with them, some of their medical staff. If they come to town, I go down and see them because they hang around a little longer than the players, right? Yeah. And then getting to go into the Dodgers organization and see how they did it, and see like where some of their success comes from was really neat. Gabe Kapler was their minor league kind of coordinator, player development guy. And he called me, said, "Hey man, we're looking at your numbers and we think you have refound your sweet spot of stuff. We know where you're good. We don't care that you don't throw 95. We know you're really good from 89 to 92 or 88 to 91. Like, you're good there. It doesn't matter what the league is doing. Like, you're good there. That's what our numbers say." So they're looking at things through a little different lens. I'd never heard anybody say that. So I was like, oh shit, maybe I am. So they're like, "But we need you as a starter," which was, kind of back to the point about I wish I'd had an opportunity. It was really fun. I came out, I think my first two starts were 4 perfect innings, 5 no-hit innings. And then over time, I just couldn't hold up with it. My arm just got tired. I thought I'd be able to get through it just because I was able to get you out at 80 miles an hour, but still run one up to 91 when I wanted. So it was a lot of the 80s on purpose, but I just still couldn't, get through that much workload after not having done it for quite some time. So I did spend some time on the DL that year, which was unfortunate. I didn't do that much. And then they came back and as a reliever. And then I was able to kind of go out there and do my thing. And they were kind of put me on watch alert for, hey, we're going to be in the postseason and we need you. We need you in those numbers because we know you have postseason success and you're definitely a candidate for one of the guys we want to call up to make a run. It didn't end up happening, but I felt good about that as far as being able to continue my career. The next year would have been 2017, and I got no invites to major league spring training. I would have gotten invites to minor league spring training. And that was, there's a little regret about not going to a minor league and like trying to kick around and, maybe being able to make a year or two out or however much more. Because who couldn't use a couple extra $100,000? But it wasn't about that. I was like, the game, I feel like, has passed me by. They're moving to the high velocity, top of the zone. That's not me. Now you'd never see a sinker baller, really rare. And if you do see one, they still throw it 95 miles an hour. So I was just, the game, I felt like it kind of passed me by. I was a little pissed off that I didn't get, at least with the career that I felt like I had, which again, was not some all-star career, but I thought it was good enough to at least get an invite to Major League camp. And once I didn't get that, I was like, might be time to look at something else, bud. So that was the crossroads. It wasn't really, it was a crossroads because I was still training to wait for that call.
Sure.
But just never got it. And I thought that was a sign.
Well, certainly that's a much different level, but I play the game of golf and nobody will ever say, "Hey, I just shot 75. I'm done now." I don't think you always want to do better than you already have, even if you. So I guess we could see that in competitiveness and things like that. But you just wrapped your 7th year as an analyst with, I guess, Bally's, Fox Sports, Cincinnati, whatever it's been called throughout that time. What's that been like for you as far as now you're kind of more hands-on with the fans, especially you do that post game. You're right there among and those crazy folks there on the set. What's that been like for you? And have you, I guess, do you enjoy that kind of work and what you've been able to do there?
Yeah, it's been nice to stay around the game for sure. Obviously, I'm familiar with a lot of the staff that's still around, both on the media side and the baseball staff is thinning out a little bit. There's less and less guys that I know down there, but when I do go down and visit with them, they're good to me. You know, the players certainly is a fraternity. I don't go down there as much, so they're probably not as familiar with me as I'd kind of hope they would be. But I respect their space. I remember when I was in the locker room and I don't want media just kind of hanging around our area. And I don't want to be that guy, even though I was a player. You know, I still don't want to be down there, them thinking that I want something from them. I don't. I'm going to call the game how I see it. If you hustle, you're fine. Otherwise, I'm going to bury you, you know, but because I know the game's hard. But no, it's been great to stay around the game. I'm comfortable in Cincinnati. You know, the people, the fans, you know, I told you they treat me well. Absolutely. So it's fun to get to spend time with them and see familiar faces on, you know, the other side of the fence. So no, it's been great and I've enjoyed it. And, you know, we'll continue to kind of monitor how that evolves with whatever's going to happen around here and whatever, you know, kind of things that, or opportunities I see coming along. Let me make sure my thing's not going to die. Okay.
We got a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, I told you I've been using this computer. I didn't even know I could turn it on. Now all of a sudden I ran it out of battery in one day. And I'm like, this is might be on to something here.
There you go. Well, I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you the excitement of Terry Francona being hired. As you stand and look at it, I guess, what are your thoughts on that? You've been around him a little bit going up with the Ohio Cup and him coming down this way. Obviously, huge man in the game too. So obviously anybody knows Terry Francona if you're a baseball guy.
Yeah, he's I mean, I didn't really consider him because I knew he stepped away for health. So I didn't want to get my hopes up about that. And I was telling other people, they're like, what about Terry Francona? I was like, I mean, yeah, but I think that ship sailed. And then, you know, the Reds get him and it's like, you know, I was talking with Sean Casey yesterday. I was like, there's no one player on the free agent market who would make a bigger difference on this Reds team than Terry Francona. So he is, I mean, he would have been the top of the mountain, top of the wish list, all that crap. And they got him and they'll improve at least. They were going to get better next year anyway, whether they kept David or not. I mean, they just were. I didn't feel like this year was a regression. I feel like this year was a regression from 2023, which was an aberration. And everybody's starting to measure shit in the different. Sorry if I'm cussing too much. I don't mean to. Everybody's, you know, measuring it against an unlikely happening. You know, the jump 20 games forward from 22 to 23 and have a bunch of young guys come up and succeed at the big level all at once. That does not happen. You know, people are going to start measuring and making their prognostications based on another jump like that. That does not happen in this game. I had them pegged to win 75 games this year. I was scared to say it because I don't want to like ruin the optimism around the city, but I'm not shocked at all at the season that they had. I'm shocked how they got there with some of the inconsistencies and certain guys that didn't perform the way I thought that they would. But I thought there was a lot to be happy about this year. And I think if you continue that trend where now the starting rotation has started to, you know, establish itself, a lot of guys kind of went through their little sophomore slump. They will progress. You get healthy. I think there's a lot to be excited about this year. So they were going to get several wins better, in my opinion, anyway. They were going to be at least 500 if I coached them. When you get Terry Francona coming, I hate to say 90 games, but it would not surprise me.
Sure.
So that's my thought on that.
Do you put any stock in the idea that, hey, you hired Francona, now you need to go out and sign X amount of people or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, I'm not going to get into that because I'm always wrong. And I don't know what I don't know if Nick Martinez is going to opt out. I don't know, there's a Ty France situation. There's an Espinal situation. I focus on the guys that are definitely here, that are definitely going to be on the 20, whatever it is now, man roster, and then start to work around and start to see if there's fit somewhere. And if I was going to get something, I mean, I say this with love for Jake Fraley, because I think Jake Fraley is going to have a lot better year next year too, whether it's in right field for Cincinnati or somewhere else. But I think if you can find a bopper to put in the middle of the lineup, Encarnacion Strand should be one. Ellie's going to hit some more homers. Spence will have a better year. But I feel like if you can find a guy and stick him out in right field and he can smoke some home runs, I think it makes him a lot better, a lot more dangerous team, because I love the line drive and I love the stolen base. I love that. Most of those guys are designed to do that. But if you just get somebody right in the middle of it who's just kind of like, oh boy, like you have to plan for him. Like if they put Adam Dunn, I think I said that to somebody. I was like, if you get Adam Dunn and plug him in this lineup, it becomes a lot different lineup.
It does.
So, I mean, those guys are hard to find. They're expensive. But as far as that goes, no, I wouldn't overly speculate on the roster, because I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to look like.
I understand.
And dude, I'm not Mr. like PC about the team. You know, it's like, no. I'm calling it how I see him, but there's also just, you know, thoughts that I have that I don't like to speculate too much.
Well, there are a lot of moving parts anyway, and you mentioned some of the decisions that need to be made just probably after the World Series and things like that. So that's part of it. But we'll have an anxious, you know, off season. The hot stove will be cooking. Yeah. You'll be doing some of those shows, I'm sure, the hot stove report, and it'll be really good to see kind of the excitement grow in Cincinnati again. That'll be fun. Yeah,
it's definitely grown. I love the fact that they got Tito right away. And he said at his press conference, he was fired up and everybody else just got done playing. So you kind of the stove's going to cool off, but as it gets closer, and I almost wish nobody would remind the city that they got Terry Francona to manage the team and tell them about 2 weeks before spring training. And they're like, let's go.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping, but we'll see how it unfolds. Definitely have some conversations and see where this thing goes. But no, it's been a great start to the off season for the Reds so far.
Absolutely. They've won it so far, and they're not even, like I said, past the postseason when it really starts going. Sam, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking it and being here with me. I really appreciate you.
You got it, brother. Thanks for having me. We'll, I guess you went around the horn with me, so you probably won't have me on again, but if you want to, shoot me an email.
We'll check it out. Thanks so much.
All right, brother.